What's up, everybody? Today, we're going to talk about authenticity. We're going to talk about how there's an epidemic of insecure, inauthentic men, and how authenticity plus boundaries create spiritual authority. So, let's touch on who the most authentic people are in the world. What does the mark of a secure man look like? And let's take a couple steps back. Because if you were to ask me, children are the most authentic humans around, whether they're 3 or 5 years old. They do not perform for your approval. They have no filter. They're not looking to filter themselves, right? They don't censor themselves out of fear. And somewhere along the way, men lose this. How many children have we heard be so blunt that they ask why someone's fat? They'll ask why somebody is the way that they are, right? They're just honest. And we as adults have completely lost this authenticity. So much so that people can't even use the simple word no if someone asks them for a favor. They'd rather flake. They'd rather ruin their reputation of not being someone reliable so that in the moment, they don't have to tell somebody no, that they're not authentic to their true selves in the moment. Why do men lose this? It's often due to disapproval, social conditioning, rejection. They've never had a masculine role model, absent father, feminized environments, shame from childhood. And men will completely wear a mask. They have these kind of chains around them because they've never truly lived their authentic self. And I want men listening to this right now to ask themselves, where in their life right now are you wearing a mask? How many different areas are you wearing a mask? And why? And if we think about Jesus as the model of radical authenticity, Jesus was not worried about acceptance, popularity, or kind of softening the truth. If we think of Matthew 10:34, Jesus says, "I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Jesus knew that the truth was going to divide, and he spoke it clearly and boldly. Luke 12:51, "Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. Because masculine men speak truth knowing it may offend somebody. They're not worried about the outcome." And I'm not saying that you have to be an asshole, but you need to be authentic. You need to not worry about the opinions and feelings of others. And Jesus, he wasn't harsh. He was just authentic. His identity was secure. His mission was very crystal clear. There was no dispute around his mission. And he never traded who he was for people, for who the people wanted him to be. Right? There was no compromise. So authentic men, we're not rude. They're not rude. They're consistent. They consistently deliver the same message. And when you're authentic, this removes any insecurity you have, right? Because authenticity and insecurity don't go together. It's an oxymoron. So authenticity is the highest form of stability in leadership, right? It goes back to that consistency, speaking the truth, everybody knowing you're a man of honor, right? We can lean on what they're going to say. And when you are authentic, you're killing any need for the approval of others. You're not there to collect votes. You're there to actually lead people in truth. Even if you're not leading anybody, just being authentic to your own self of who you are as an individual. And one of the best parts is, gentlemen, authentic men attract Proverbs 31 wives, loyal friends, and respect. So what area are you pretending, whether it's your work, your marriage, your church, your friend group? And just so we're crystal clear, I'm going to give you a series of examples of inauthenticity in men. So saying yes when you want to say no. Let's dive into this. Somebody asks you to help them move and you tell them, yeah, no problem. And then you bail and you literally had no intentions of ever following through. Someone invites you to your wedding and you're not a wedding person, but you still say yes. They freaking buy a plate for you and you don't show up, or you go begrudgingly and you're not having a good time. Nobody wants that person at their wedding. Just tell them no. Congratulations. I wish you the best, but no, thank you. When people invite you to something, anything, and the fact that you don't just tell them no, it's not what I want to spend my time doing. You say yes when you want to say no. And you're going to be like, well, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That compounding effect of you being so like nobody can rely on your word means nothing. And then you got a wife by your side who she sees all of these things and she knows your word doesn't mean shit. Your children know your word doesn't mean shit. So you're not fooling them, right? You're just setting the groundwork for them to be able to go, okay, my husband, he's not even reliable. He can't even follow through with his own word. So how does anything he tells me have any meaning or hold any weight? If he can't just tell his buddy who he hasn't seen in a while that he doesn't want to help him move. Okay? And then the plus side, when you are authentic and you tell people no, they're going to appreciate your honesty. They're going to appreciate that you are a man of honor because you do what you say. You live the life you choose to live, not BSing. Another example is avoiding confrontation. What are you avoiding confrontation for? Tell me. Biblically, John the Baptist, he was calling out kings. Jesus, calling out the Pharisees. I mean, confrontation, right? If you are authentic, you're not avoiding confrontation. You're going there with a clear mind. You're calm, under control. Your strength under control. You're calm, cool, and collected. You are being authentic and you're having an honest conversation. And God knows where your heart posture is, so you're not worried about offending anybody. Okay, you're standing up for what's right instead of just making peace. Being a people pleaser. A people pleaser is weak, brother. You're getting walked all over. So, do not avoid confrontation. Agreeing to something that you resent later. Again, another example of not being authentic. You're not even living out your own life. You're agreeing to something that you're going to resent later for a decision you made. There's no authenticity in that. Again, weak. The fact that any man resents anything that he decided to do, bro, grow up. You are being such a sissy lala right now. It was your choice. How about you be authentic and be just open and honest? And then that thing called resentment for doing something you didn't want to do will never even come across to you because you were authentic to begin with. And then another example, fake enthusiasm. Man, fake enthusiasm. Why? Like, why put on that mask? Lowering your standards to not upset people. No. As men of God, if our identity is in Christ, if you're a high value man, whatever term in there resonates with you, mine, I'm a follower of Christ first and foremost. I am not lowering my standards to potentially not upset anybody. Never. There's nothing authentic about that. Okay? We need to raise our standards as men. The last thing men need to do is lower their standards because they're worried about upsetting somebody. Hiding your spiritual belief. How many guys right now hide their spiritual beliefs, their relationship with God? How many of you guys are doing that? In the workplace, online, social settings, sports? You know, you joke like, oh, it's time for the prayer. Haha. Yeah, not me. I'm wearing that on my sleeve, right? Right here on the chest. Christ is first every day through all things. So let's be authentic. Another example, not being honest with your wife. What good does that do? Tell me. Put it in the comments, slide into the DMs. Tell me when not being honest with your wife was beneficial. How about you just own it? Whatever it is, whatever it was. Just tell her, right? Not telling your buddies the truth. Again, let's be authentic. Okay? Here's one of my favorite. Acting confident online when you're insecure in your own household. Acting confident in public when you're just an insecure boy in your own household. Okay? Brother, take off that mask. And you got to remember, all these examples, all this inauthenticity is self-betrayal. You're only lying to yourself, which leads to a weaker and weaker man. Every time you do that, you're just letting yourself know that you're even more incapable. So let's talk about boundaries and how the backbone of masculine strength, the backbone of us being authentic, and why authenticity lies within these boundaries that we need to create. Because you cannot be authentic if you don't have boundaries, right? You cannot protect your identity if you cannot say no. And boundaries are self-respect. Is a self-respect mechanism, right? Boundaries preserve your mission. They create emotional regulation. There's so many different areas where we have to keep boundaries. Jesus demonstrated strong boundaries. In Luke 4:28, one of my favorite stories, Luke 4:28 through 31. There's a crowd, wants to throw him off a cliff. They want to kill him. And he just walks through the center and goes on his way. They rejected his message, right? He's from Nazareth, and they rejected him. They were filled with rage, insecurity, right? It says that they drug him to the edge of town, and Jesus calmly walked through the crowd and went on his way. He was in his most authentic self because of his identity in the Father, right? Our authenticity comes from living out our identity. Living out our identity allows us to be authentic. So Jesus, in this moment, again, Luke 4:28 through 31, zero panic. He wasn't worried. He knew his mission. He was calling them on their bluff. Zero emotional reactivity, right? He didn't allow it to get to himself. Zero fear. He wasn't worried. It didn't say that he ran, that he escaped, he fled for his life. It says he walked through the crowd and went on his way. He was composed. He was walking with authority. It's like that, those memes where you see the dogs barking at each other on the side of the fence, and when they open the gate, they act like neither of them were barking. That's what the crowd was. And when you're your most authentic self, you can walk through the center of them with confidence, authentic, because you're living out that identity. And a man with boundaries is calm even when he is under attack. Mark 1:35 through 38. Jesus is refusing the demands of the crowd, right? Jesus, he leaves to go pray. His disciples are saying, like, everyone's looking for you. And they are. People are looking for him. And he just says, no. Stays on his mission and is like, we're going to go somewhere else. I'm not giving in to what others want of me, what others want for me. I'm here for my mission, whatever that is. So this is the path I'm going down. Saying no is setting up boundaries. Boundaries are not selfish. They are obedience. And where men need boundaries today, men need boundaries in their marriage. You know, you don't get manipulated by emotion. You don't tolerate disrespect. You set the tone spiritually. You protect the mission of your home. You create boundaries of trust, not distance. You cultivate the culture. A boundary is if you don't cultivate the household culture, one's going to be created for you. Again, setting a boundary. You actually step into that role of the head of the household and have your war queen speak wisdom into the household. Boundaries in the marriage. Here's a boundary, not controversial, but some of you may think it is. My wife doesn't talk to men ever, even a social setting. Let's say I'm taking her to a banquet. There's zero reason for her to talk to any random guy there. Now, does she talk to my friends? Yeah, she can talk to my friends because those are my friends. And when I say friends, I can count them all on one hand. Okay? They are brothers. But there's no need. Why? There's no shooting the shit, right? We create boundaries. Here's a boundary that I have in my marriage. I never put myself in a situation where I'm alone with another woman. I'm protecting my marriage. And do not get it twisted. It has 0% to do with I don't trust myself. I don't need some allegation. And it's like, well, that guy was in a cab alone with that woman, so maybe it happened. No, never. Never going to catch me alone with another woman in any setting. Boundaries. And then boundaries with your children. Do you provide structure for your children? Boundaries build safety. You know, are we discipling them? And do we allow that to flow from our leadership and not reactivity? Is our presence, is it setting the emotional thermostat? Are we intentionally discipling our children? Boundaries with friends and the in-laws. Whoa. Not everybody gets access to me in my time. I protect my inner circle. I reduce the noise. I'm very good at telling people no. I create boundaries with the in-laws. They do not dictate what we do. They do not dictate what we do on holidays. They do not have an influence on how we raise our children. They're not. I see how they live. I see how their kids are. Yeah, they got zero input. Are we creating healthy boundaries? And then boundaries for my time and energy. I have a morning routine that doesn't get interrupted. I have a prayer life every morning. I go to the gym multiple times a week. Those things do not get interrupted because it allows me to be my most authentic self. I create boundaries and protection around those times. I create boundaries and protection for my wife, for her to have free time away from me and the children, that she gets to recoup, recharge her batteries, do whatever she wants with like 15 hours a week. Now, someone would say that's not that much. It's like, well, how much are you getting? I'm going to go with 0. Okay. Work blocks. I don't allow work to interfere with family settings. And then, gentlemen, here's one that all of you guys need to set boundaries about, just for yourself. No porn whatsoever. This is also porn. No Instagram fit chicks. Set the boundaries. Okay? No emotional outbursts. You need to get yourself under control. Set those boundaries. Victim mindset. How many guys are blaming your situation on somebody or something else? People pleasing. Stop the people pleasing. The inconsistent behavior, pretending, the self-betrayal. All of those things you need to put boundaries on. And there are deep, deep consequences for having no boundaries in your life. Resentment. Again, we talked about that earlier. You're going to resent the decisions you made. But when you're authentic, there is no resentment because you were completely confident in any decision you make. And even if there's a tough decision, you make it and you never look back. You just keep moving forward. You're like, I own it. This is the decision I made. It's that simple. Burnout. If you do not protect your time, and again, when I say protect your time, you as a man need to protect your individual time and do not let that negatively impact your wife and children, which again, I'm up at 3:30. I'm doing XYZ. I'm hitting the gym on certain days of the week, and I'm back before the family's even waking out of bed. Does not negatively impact, and I protect that time. Nothing messes with that. Saturday, my gym's not open at the time that I would like it to, but it's okay. I don't allow my wife to plan certain things on Saturdays that impacts my gym time. And she's aware of that. It's mutually agreed upon. She knows. Saturday morning used to be for deadlifts. Now it's for squats. And I protect it. Falling into weak leadership, man. If you don't have standards, you don't have boundaries, you're not living authentic. Your leaderships can be very weak in the household, right? Passive aggressive behavior. Again, these are all consequences of not putting boundaries in place. Loss of respect from your wife. I bet you that one's exciting. I mentioned earlier, she sees you telling people yes when you really mean no, and then she knows you're going to bail. Bro, she doesn't have respect for you. Every time you say you're going to do something, she should know this motherfucker does what he says. And I can lean on that till the cows come home. Your kids, they're not going to listen to you if you don't have boundaries for yourself, let alone the family. You're going to have friends in your circle that are just draining instead of sharpening you. No boundaries. You're going to have like emotional volatility. No spiritual authority or mission is going to just be tossed around in the wind like a leaf. So what boundary needs to happen in your life this week that you've been avoiding? Let's think about that. So let's talk about how when you're authentic, plus you implement boundaries, you will become a secure, respected man who's living out your identity. Right? Authenticity is living out your identity. Boundaries is that protection of it. And when you put it all together, it allows for masculine stability. A secure man is not afraid to disappoint people. When you're authentic, you're not afraid of conflict. You're not afraid of the opinions of others. I mean, people you don't even know. How many of you think have used the word like, man, that's awkward? That's awkward. It's not fucking awkward. There's nothing awkward in this world except the fact that you care about what somebody else thinks. Get that word out of your vocabulary. If you are a man, get the word awkward out of your vocabulary. Right? A man who is secure and authentic, he's not controlled by his emotions. Not one bit. Emotions are good. I get excited when I see my wife. I see my sons accomplish something. Right? I hit a PR. Emotions are good, but do not be controlled by your emotions. When you're authentic, you can't be manipulated. It's just not a thing. Those two don't go together. Right? It's like water and oil. You're not moved by the pressure of others. You're not reactive. You don't need permission to lead. You don't hide behind masks. When you are secure, here's one of the best ones. A secure man, a man who's truly being authentic, right? Think about this. As a man in your own household, if you're truly being authentic, you should be able to go up to your wife, pick her up, make out with her in the kitchen. Your kids don't even think that's weird because it's something you do. You're going to flirt with her throughout the day because she's freaking hot, right? You're going to give her these words of affirmation. And then because you've been doing this metaphorical foreplay throughout every day, all day, again, you don't need to be at home all the time. Sending her a little flirty text. Send her a text of appreciation. Not just, I love you. Okay? Do better. Anytime you want to sleep with your wife, you go and you pick her up, throw her over your shoulder like a caveman, and you take her to the room. How many men listening to this? Think about it. You're timid and you don't take action even in the bedroom. You're questioning even if she wants to. It's like, where's the authenticity in that? There's none. Zilch. And you want to consider yourself the head of the household? It's like, bro, that's not how it works. So think about being more authentic. Because a man who stands firm, he knows who he is and what he will and what he will not allow. All right. So the world does not need more agreeable, polite, boundaryless men. Okay? We don't need more pansies. We don't need more dirty liberals. All right, man? Step up. The world needs authentic men who refuse to wear a mask and men whose boundaries make them immovable. Your wife doesn't want a nice guy. She wants a man she can trust. She wants a man who she can lean on, who's her rock, right? Who's not going to be shaken. Your children don't need a perfect dad. They want a stable one who loves their mother, right? Who loves their mother. And God doesn't want you to put on a performance, act like everything's fine because he knows you're full of shit. You got to remember, he knows. So who are we kidding? He just wants our obedience. So be authentic, set boundaries, and be dangerous for the kingdom. If you guys want more of a school community, school.com/ultimate husband. It's called Lions of Faith, SKOOL, or follow me on Instagram. And let's get this, man. We need more men to be authentic. Let's go.